What's that?
Let the power go to your head, though.
I know. What, like Trump, you mean? A tariff, I'm going to put a tariff on you now, John.
I think we might be live.
Second now. So, turning around now. Yeah, there we are, we're live.
We're live, okay. Right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the February Buckinghamshire Council Planning Committee, the first February one. Do we have any public speakers tonight?
No, we don't.
Right, thank you. In that case, if we could move on to apologies for absence.
Apologies from Mrs. Conway and for Councillor Schaefer.
Thank you very much. Should we accept it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Declarations of interest, to receive declarations of any personal or prejudicial interest under consideration on this agenda. That's a start free. Thank you, Robin.
Just in case we're ever allowed a planning meeting, that isn't through delegated powers and councils get to determine anything about it. But we haven't had one application about Buckingham in 4 years, which has gone to committee. It must be a, not what, yeah, when it was called in. Not normally, so we don't normally discuss Buckingham applications. Lynn's that to the great and the good. So
Thank you, Robin. Fine, just to remind members, if something comes up during the course of the meeting, you can still declare an interest. Right, item 3, minutes to agree the minutes of the planning committee meetings held on the 2nd and the 16th of December and on the 6th of January. Anyone have any comments on those, or may we pass those as a true record?
Yeah.
Okay, we just have a show of hands, all those in favour?
Nope.
Thank you, that's unanimous. Fine. We've just got to item 4, and I'll just ask Councillor Try and Councillor Draper if either of you have any declaration of interest on it.
No.
No, thank you. So we can continue then with item 4, Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan, Belleville Plans, Buckinghamshire Local Plan. Received any updates?
You probably remember that Regulation 16 consultation from Buckingham on the 30th. And you probably will be aware that the full council consented to the appointment of an examiner at the last full council meeting, the second meeting. Other than that, I've just written to ask Vice Council for an update on whether we're going to get some feedback and when we're going to get it, and we shall see.
Members will recall that at the last council meeting we agreed to consent to Mr. Ashcroft, the examiner. And, Patrick Hardcastle from Mason Norton since then. He did their plan. He said that he was excellent and he was very, very amenable to everything the parish council suggested. So
He's done a lot of plans and he's done quite a few for Bucks.
anything else? Anyone else got anything on? Catherine?
Members might remember that a couple of years ago there was a survey for the Buckinghamshire Local Plan on facilities that the town had on the building and sent back, and they have sent us a update, if we wouldn't mind, which is principally aimed at the sort of village that might or might not have a shop. So we filled in 12 sides of the facilities this town had on offer under the various headings that they wanted, and Adam and I are working on it. Nina's already done the cemetery bit, so.
Well done. Thank you. Minute, our thanks, please.
Thank you. Anyone else on that item? Right, in that case, we can move on to item 5. Councillor Anthony Ralph is our representative on the North Bucks Parishes Planning Consortium. Anthony.
Thank you very much. Well, there was a meeting held on the 22nd of January, and after a bit of housekeeping and what have you, moved on to the NPPF consultation and the Buckinghamshire local plan, which we'd all been involved in, and these are the same. There wasn't any news, except it was noted that members wanting an indicative figure of house planning gain likely to be coming forward are still unable to get anything definitive from the north of the county. And it was felt this was also unlikely to change before the beginning of Purdah. So that was that. We were always joined by Lou Munger, and he noted that town and parish councils should accept there will be requirements for developments in each of the areas, and towns and parishes should consider what could be accommodated in this area. This would enable them to talk to Buckinghamshire Council in a proactive way, rather than waiting to have something done to them. But again, there's little point in doing this until after the local elections, because that would fade into the background. The next item was to remind everybody that Callum Anderson MP was going to receive an invite to address the NBPF, and again, that will be done after the local elections, and it was likely to be held as a single item meeting, whereas normally you have a whole pile of stuff on the agenda, because they really wanted to maximise the opportunity of talking to the MP. I thought it was good. The next item was solar and battery developments, and a question was raised about the Rosefield battery storage facility, that it might be having its own substation, which is somewhat adding insult to injury, if you care to look at it that way. Nevertheless, this particular development has been pushed out apparently to the third quarter of 2025, so there is time to clarify that point. And also the Statera application for battery development on Hawkshaw Road at Granborough has been refused, as I think we all know, and is now going to be the subject of an appeal. It was noted that no cabling route has yet been specified, so it's unlikely this will proceed in the very near future. Everything seems to go remarkably slowly on these various items. And interestingly, somebody said that although interested parties had been assured there's no risk of fire from battery farms and toxic smoke, members considered the experience of fire such as those in Los Angeles recently seemed to paint a bit of a different picture, because there was some footage of a battery farm going up, and when it goes up, it goes up.
Yeah.
But fair do. Moved on to some of the normal items, Shenley Park and Salton Chase developments. There was no real news, certainly nothing fresh on Shenley Park, and it was noted that on Salton Chase, Parish Council are still working with the developer on various aspects, but it was all pretty much local stuff. There was the Padbury development recently was mentioned, and the representative from Padbury thanked the NBPC for helping with the refusal and appeal for the 79 houses in the area. And it was noted that Adstock Parish Council had submitted a 4-page support document, so all fairly active there, although it's really down to appeals now. Just to show you how this report has aged very quickly, the Oxcam Arc. There was no news presently on the Oxcam Arc. It was about that it was not likely to just go away. That was approximately 1 week before. Anyway, there was quite a bit of talk about the A421 study, which the chair and I visited. Was held in Nash, and several members of the NBPPC actually attended that. And the consensus was that the financial limitations being what they are, as reported, little more than roundabout improvements were likely, and even those would be subject to financial pressures. They're really it was, well, I think it was unsatisfactory, and that was the feeling of this meeting. And it was also noted that despite being promised a copy of the presentation slide deck at the meeting, subsequent requests were refused as the contents were deemed confidential. Now, we're aware of that already, but it's interesting that everybody else found exactly the same, so there was consensus on that. Interestingly, he also touched on 20-mile-an-hour speed limits. And again, Callum Anderson MP was looking into this for villages and other sensitive areas, and Maids Morton Parish Council expressed not only an interest in the 20-mile-an-hour potential, they also wanted to look more at weight limits where appropriate as well, because I think they're concerned with heavy goods traffic going through Maids Morton. It is not helpful to some of their older buildings.
Absolutely.
And it was felt generally there should be a concerted push to get 20-mile-an-hour limits more generally accepted across the MBPPC area. I don't know how to pronounce this one. BMKL, is that a fair way of putting it? BMKL? Yeah, thank you. The chair noted in his view, these meetings were of minimal usefulness with a general lack of engagement. He felt there needs to be a re-evaluation, and so the MBPPC plans to make an appointment with the new head of planning after the election to discuss this. It feels that it needs to be more done. The final thing is a personal point from me, actually, is the next MBPPC meeting should fall in April. But because of local elections and PERDA, it was considered sensible to consider a meeting in May and to be included with the AGM. I do. Now, although I will not obviously be attending this meeting as a representative of Buckingham Town Council, as you all know, I'm not standing. I'm more than willing, though, to attend in a listening-only capacity and prepare a brief report for my successor to assist in continuity, should this be deemed both useful and appropriate. Clearly, it will need to be checked with the chair of the MBPPC, Pat Hardcastle, but I can't think that Pat would not be happy about this. He has a fairly relaxed attitude of people who attend the meetings. If there's some protocol reason why non-council people can't attend a meeting with a sort of at least a half BTC hat on, I'll understand, but I'm happy to do that if it's useful, because I really wouldn't want to lose the momentum, because we seem to get a nice regular run on this now.
Kind of you, thank you.
Oh, that's all right, that's all right.
There is a precedent, of course, there are a couple of Winslow members of the
Oh, yes, yes.
consortium who are not councillors, so
Yeah.
there is a precedent. But Steve,
If I'm right, I'll say at this point, I mean, it's entirely a matter for that
Sure.
body, if you want, if they're willing for you to attend, I see no reason not to.
Sure, I just wanted to check it here first, Steve, and then I'll speak to Pat and proceed accordingly. But I do like the idea of continuity.
I mean, at May's annual meeting, we'll be appointing, or members will be appointing,
Sure.
representatives of all outside bodies anyway. So
Sure.
at that point, when we'll know, what was the date of the next meeting, did they say?
Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head. It'll be about halfway through May, I think. But I mean, I'm not desperate to do it and push somebody else out. It's just a question of if we haven't actually got representatives sorted out, because I assume that the representative, wouldn't they come through the planning committee meetings?
All representatives on outside bodies are appointed by the council.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's fine, that's fine.
So although the election's on the 1st, new members retire and new members come in on the 7th, I think. And then the 12th is our annual meeting.
Sure. Well, that's fine. And as I say, the offer is there if it's of help.
Yes, please.
Yes,
Yeah.
agree.
Thank you, Anthony.
That's all right.
John,
Yeah, could you run that About the VM calc again, Anthony, didn't quite clear
Yeah,
what the implication of that was.
well,
I feel a little bit defensive in the sense that VM calc is an officially constituted body of the National Association of Local Councils.
yes,
To which this council subscribes,
sure,
and the NPPB National Bucks is an informal
Yeah.
meeting of people from various councils across North Bucks.
well, this was the chair's personal comment, I would say, he said he was ducking it. Oh.
That's fine, that's okay.
I'm being, trying to be amusing really. He thought they were of minimal usefulness in as far as his parish council were concerned, and felt that they lacked, because they lacked a general feeling of engagement with parishes and town councils. And he felt there needed to perhaps be a re-evaluation. He was going to suggest that they plan, the MVPPC plan to make an appointment with the new head of planning, whoever that is, after the election to discuss it. Now, it may be that nothing further moves after the discussion, but I guess they're entitled to say we're not happy and could we do something to make it a bit more efficient or something. I don't know.
Through the chair, well, if Patrick's not happy with BM Cal, he should take his concerns to BM Cal.
Well, that's what he's going to do.
You said to the head of planning. He said he's taking his views to the head of planning. Planning has nothing, head of planning on Shire Council has nothing to do with it, would be how BM Cal operates.
Let me check that out, John, and just make sure everything is.
Okay, and I mean, yeah, I think it's of interest his perspective.
Yes,
So but I think he ought to be talking to at least the executive officer, if not the executive committee or BM Cal about his concerns.
okay.
That's a bit out of our province.
I know, but I wanted to pick up on that.
Yeah,
because, yeah.
Robin?
Yeah, firstly, Anthony, thank you for such a thorough, in-depth and detailed response to the meetings. I note that everyone's thinking things might need to be moved because of the election. It is likely that it's called the CEO and DCEO is going to be coming forward. There's going to be a large announcement imminent on that. So I believe they're major issues around development, and that's a once in a lifetime significant announcement. So it could be that when that comes out, and I presume that you would have hoped that all principal local planning authorities would have attended it, but I don't think that was the case. It was the government briefing, or outline briefing. So that's going to take place. I think that's important that we don't allow an election to interfere with our scrutiny of proposals of development, because it's very important we've got a local plan and whatever on here. So I hope that when those announcements come out, which I know the chair will be interested in, that we actually carry on our governance and scrutiny of that, and don't be minded, because it's a once in a lifetime chance to govern, because not every council in England will be having elections in 2025. So we shouldn't take our eye off the ball. The other thing I'm curious about Buckinghamshire's plans proposals. Well, there are some stronger guidelines on development on which I think we should seek some briefings on, is on timelines of when they've got to put their plans together. And they're a lot more sharper than when they were pre-June, was it? So they've got to get work done in certain timelines and have something to show that they're actually got the capability of putting a plan together. So that's going to be quite testing. And the other thing, when you say,
So Robin, just to be clear, are you asking that
no, I'm just making
the
comment
MPPTC
on it,
we're
and I won't.
getting off subject to the
No.
report that council
And the point you made about, I'm worried about, I'm trying to make the point about the 2025 elections, with so much going on with planning. It might be something that the group needs to look at, between now, Anthony, and when they plan to meet again, because the development plans and stuff will go on regardless of the 2025 elections. And also, just for information, the opposition groups on Buckinghamshire Council have never been invited to discuss or be part of putting together any part of the Buckinghamshire plan. In fact, they voted to stop it. So the 2025 election might be key in the way we put together how we progress these things post 2025. But I am concerned that this might, discussing it in June or May, Anthony, there may be a lot of things happen which all those people need to look at in the interim, and the election might be in the middle of it all. It worries me that, because then people have the right to comment.
Yeah, as far as I consider it, the MBPPF is not like this committee, for example, where they're actually making decisions in a sort of quasi, at least, legal sense. They are a group of people who represent their towns and councils across North Buckinghamshire. And for example, things like delaying inviting the local MP to meet them until after whatever, as in this case, a local election, to be honest, is neither here nor there. It doesn't prejudice anything. They're just trying to be realistic that both parties, both the local MP and members of the MBPPC might have other things to do, and if they meet in April, May or June, it doesn't really matter in the same way as making planning decisions, for example, or whatever. So therefore, to that extent, it's quite a different animal. I don't think it prejudices anything to delay these things. It shows a sense of let's, do one thing at a time and keep things tidy.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Right, we can move on to planning applications. For members' information, the next scheduled Buckinghamshire Council, North Buckinghamshire Planning Area Committee meetings are Wednesdays, 5th February this week and 5th of March. And strategic site committees are on Thursdays, the 13th of February and the 13th of March. I don't think we have anything at the moment.
No.
It's been cancelled. It's been cancelled.
So it's been cancelled. Which one? This week?
This week's.
This week's. Okay, thank you for that, Robin.
Yeah, the agenda's not up for the next year.
Right. Right, to consider responses to the following applications. The first one is Starbucks Coffee in London Road. They want to put a 9-metre totem pole sign, the entrance to their site, which is by the Shell garage, 9 metres being 30 feet. The street lights, which are the highest in Buckingham in London Road, are 38 feet. So the totem would only be a few feet short of the tallest of the street lights. They want to replace the existing monument sign. Highways are happy as long as the luminance would not exceed 600 candela to avoid glare, and they want non-illuminated sign to be any non-illuminated sign to be finished in non-reflective materials. The resemblance to and confusion with bona fide road signs. What happened? I haven't seen many road signs at 9 metres high, but Lucy.
My personal feelings about Starbucks as a company aside, we've already got McDonald's there and the Shell garage with their signage and Costa.
Yeah.
It's already quite a built up area in terms of modern signage. And they are quite tucked out of the way. They probably need all the advertising they can get. So as long as it's not going to be a distraction, as you said, highways have said, as long as it doesn't exceed a certain luminance, I don't see any planning objections to it.
Concur with Councillor Draper entirely on everything she says.
As has been said, I don't have any objection, except for the height. It's just enormous. They can put one up, but why 9 metres? Okay, for the lorry drivers, I think the cars maybe should be looking at the road, not 9 metres
up above, and there's not that much of a run to get your eye line in 9 metres up to actually see the top of it. So,
Just so everyone's clear, this ceiling here is about 22 metres, so it's going to be 8 metres higher than that ceiling.
It's actually-
So not 20 metres, sorry, let me rephrase that. Yeah, let me rephrase that. So that's about 7 metres, so it's going to be 2 metres higher than that.
yeah, so I've got no objection to the application, but I am going to object because of the height. If they bring it out down to another height, then I think that would be reasonable.
It's fine.
John?
How do we know how tall the McDonald's sign is?
Depends on where you look.
Not that high.
And the petrol
I have a
station,
photograph here, I'll pass around. You could-
Thank you.
That is the site, and that's the highest pole there at the moment. It's going to be way up there. You can see how small the Shell sign is. If you could pass that around the table so people can just have an idea of.
Not far from the
Sandy.
Thank you. I don't have any objection to this, the height of it. They're tucked up in the corner. Everyone else has a visual, not only of the signage, but also of the building. So you can see the McDonald's and the Shell the same way, and the Costa. There's a building there. You can see. Starbucks are unique in that they're tucked in the corner. And you don't have any other visual sign, say they're there. So on that basis, I think they should have to say.
but I just come back and like again, I'm like, as in terms of visibility of the site, I would suggest that when Little Chef and Burger King were there back in the day, that they failed to attract the footfall because it wasn't visible, they didn't have the signage there,
Yeah.
whatever else. So whatever we may or may not think about a particular company, in order to have these facilities and have them as employment opportunities, etc., in our town, then they need to be able to show their presence. But 9 metres, when you look at it like that, does seem a little excessive.
Jane?
When you're driving across America, they have these humongously tall things because you need to see them because you're driving vast distances and they pop up and you can see them. But I can't see what the huge vista is that would require 9 metres because it's on a street. You'd see it if it was, much
Roger?
half the height.
Roger, as author of our design code.
I suspect that it's that height so that you can see it from the ring road.
Yeah.
Because if you have it lower, you're not going to, not you as a driver, but passengers might see it and go, oh, there's a Starbucks. So I think, I suspect that's why it's that height. It's like McDonald's is right on the corner, but if you consider the height of McDonald's above the highway, it's probably the same as that, I suspect.
The thought I had about it, if it was standing in the middle of the desert, then it would be extremely obvious, but it's actually in amongst quite a lot of quite tall trees and foliage. And it's green, yeah. But it needs to be a reasonable height to be able to actually even be visible, I think.
Thank you. Andy, do you want?
Yes, I just confirm what it says about the trees before turning and the trees from the other side from the other also will obscure a lower sign. So that's another point in their favour that they should be that high.
I've heard everything you've all said. My only reservation would be if we let this through at this height, are we then going to get a crop of all the others wanting the same? But having said that, I've heard what you said, and I'm going to propose we have no objection to this. Seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? Everyone said well.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Nice healthy debate. Just
Those against? Those against?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well done, Martin.
I did not put my hand up,
I
sir.
thought you had your hand up, so.
Definitely not.
So all those against, 1. Any abstentions?
I'll be 4 metres high then.
How could I have overlooked you, Martin?
Obviously not at 9 metres, I need to be taller.
You just need a larger sign to be seen, Martin.
I know he will.
Sizes everything.
Right, the second one is number 5 Honeycomb Way. This is a householder application for erection of a single-storey rear extension. You'll have seen Catherine's notes on this. The main point she makes is that it does close the garden gate access, which of course would raise the spectre of wheelie bins. Where would the wheelie bins be? The only access to the back garden would be through the house. Martin?
How dare you take the words out of my mouth, Chairman? And that's my line. Yes, wheelie bins. Yes, we've got a plethora of them in front of houses for, a good number of reasons. But when there is a side gate and that's going to be obscured, taken away, then they are definitely not going to bring them in the modern world through the house. Unlike my parents who used to lug the dustbin on their back through the house or with 2 people. That's not going to happen this time. So for that simple and minor but very relevant reason, I will object to this.
Thank you. Lucy?
I was just going to ask, I might be getting this wrong, but could they not? So is that a shared sort of passageway that goes down between the two? Right, I thought that was still then part of their property and they could have just kept them on that bit and wheeled them out. No. That's what I was going to ask.
Of course, they could, we could suggest that, they're putting entrance into their garden for this very reason.
From the other side?
Yeah.
Well, it abuts a car courtyard, so I think you could make a gate through the wall on that side of the house and get it out that way. But it would involve nothing to do around making a gateway in it.
But of course, that's not what we have in front of us tonight, so.
No.
John?
Because there is a chance they haven't thought about it. It just hasn't occurred to them.
Not blaming them, just.
It's entirely possible that people, sometimes we can all stare at things and not see the obvious. Effects. I mean, it may not occur to them, that's what we do. So I would suggest that we say no objection, but subject to sorting out the accessibility of the bins. Because in principle, I don't have a problem with it, but that bin issue is one that needs to be resolved.
Yeah.
But basically, we're saying we'd be happy with the extension, but, and of course, if wheelie bins are left out, it raises all sorts of things like street scene and, So, anyone else any comments? In that case, I'm going to follow those lines. I propose that while we have no objection to the extension, we would want to see how they're going to deal with the access to the rear garden in the wheelie bins, etc. Otherwise, we're concerned that wheelie bins could be left out at the front of the property to the detriment of the street scene. Proposed by me, seconded by Anthony. Those in favour? Right, nobody against, no abstentions, so apart from Robin's abstention, thank you. Good, and our third one tonight, and the final one we have to consider, 10 Highlands Road, and as Catherine has told you all, this is something new to us in HPDE, which is a household permitted development extension. So it's a form of permitted development rights. They don't have to apply for planning permission and they don't have to pay for it, but they do have to conform with the height, etc., which, as Catherine's pointed out, in some it meets HPDE.
And tell the neighbours and see if they have any objections. There are no objections on the website.
Lucy?
I think it's really lovely. I think it's a good use of the space. It's going to make because obviously the house itself is on that kind of quite steep slant, so it's going to give them a lot more room. It's not going to detract from the view from the front. They've got plenty of room out the back, so it's not going to hugely compromise their outdoor space. And I can see they've put stuff like a green roof. There's potential provision for an air source heat pump. I think it seems really well thought through.
Thank you. Anyone else, any comments? In that case, I propose that we have no objection. Seconded by Anthony, all those in favour? Robin, who's in favour? Thank you. And finally, but not consultation, because this has already been agreed by email, Grenville Combined School, and the overlying tree with height reduction and the shaping, which everyone on the tree committee agreed to. Thank you. Planning decisions, you'll notice 6 there, which have been approved, none of which we had any objection to, which must be a first. Very impressive. Item 8, the motion I've raised. You heard Anthony earlier in giving his NBPCC report, talk about the A421 corridor. This was a dog's dinner. Anthony and I attended on behalf of Buckingham Town Council. We had 3 shire councillors here, including Robin. We were given a slide presentation. We were told at length what's happening. We then asked after the meeting for the slides, and we were told we were going to get them. When I chased the slides up, we got an email back from Rebecca Denver-Jones from Highways, who said, after careful consideration, it's been felt that the slides are meant to be a visual aid. We are not going to send them out. Therefore, we'll wait for the final report. Hopefully, you took away enough from the meeting to be able to give a verbal update to your colleagues on the study ahead of it being released. Fine. A week later, we get an email from Steve Broadbent, Cabinet Member for Transport. I hope it was, as you know, we want to give you an early overview of key points from the study ahead of the compilation of the final report. The study is not complete. We're not in a position for any of the content to be discussed publicly. We ask you therefore to keep it all confidential. By which time, some members who've taken photographs of the workshop have posted them on Buckingham What Matters and elsewhere. And this was an absolute nonsense. You know, we gave up a morning for this. We were not told at any time it's going to be confidential. As you know, we're possibly encouraged to spread the word. So my motion says that this committee requests that Buckinghamshire Council makes public with immediate effect the updated reports on the future of the A421 corridor and its recommendations for Buckingham. Affected town and parish councils have now attended 2 Buckinghamshire Council workshops in September 23 and November 24, but little progress appears to have been made. And those parishes have since been asked retrospectively by the Cabinet Member for Transport to treat everything as confidential, not to discuss it publicly. This was despite being clearly told at the November meeting that everything was in the public domain. Some attendees even posted reports and screenshots of the presentation on Facebook. Our concern is that this A421 corridor report, vital to Buckingham, its infrastructure and its economy, will be delayed until after Purdah for the upcoming local elections, when decisions are needed on the future of this important east-west trunk road as soon as possible. Thank you. Now the seconder for that. Anthony, second by Anthony, thank you. Roger was going to speak first.
Can I just, I'll just, because what they've shown you is background evidence, presumably for the report. So if you're doing a public document and that's background evidence, then you're entitled to see it. So I would also put in a freedom of information request. Because when we were doing local plans, when we gathered evidence, it was posted straight away so that people knew that what the evidence that we were going to submit to members was in the public realm. So in my view, that you're entitled to see that, because you can't then have if you've developed evidence and then you're just going to say, here's the report, then nobody has had a chance to comment on the evidence. So I think you should as well as that, do a freedom of information request.
Thank you, Roger. Robin.
Yeah, I mean, you described it very well. It was very curious meeting in the sense that the tea and coffee was nice and the biscuits were glorious. And the ambience of the start of the meeting, as the chair and vice chair said, was this was a public consultation to go back and inform. There was no, at the start of the meeting, there was nothing saying that all this would be confidential. Well, the thing is, you can't actually hold members of the public to be confidential. You can hold your own members of your own council to be confidential, but you'd have to tell them that it was confidential before they started. So the point of confidential would have been at the start of the meeting. If it was a confidential meeting, none of the public would have been invited there anyway. So I go to confidential briefings. I don't see neighbours there. And they might like to be there, but they're not there. So I think it's a bit strange, and the fact that people who posted during the meeting probably did it because they were not told at the beginning of the meeting that it was confidential. So they wanted to say, "We're here at the study. Look at me. I'm in a photograph." I didn't actually do it because I had another meeting to go to the fire authority straight afterwards. And I thought that you'll see what happened. And the reason I didn't do it is because I had asked whether I could have the slides sent to me. Because I already had the slides, you see, because I'd already been in a confidential briefing of exactly the same thing with Buckinghamshire members. So I said, I've already got the slides, are these, and I wrote to them and said, are these slides confidential? Because they belong to somebody, and they're not that they were confidential. The actual evidence on them might be owned by the company, not the council, and it's important you should check that. So nothing happened. I never got a response to that contact. I still have not got a response to my correspondent asking whether I can circulate them. But I will see the officer again sometime and talk to them about it, I'm sure. But so it does seem that it's a strange one, isn't it? But maybe they shouldn't have had the meeting at all if they didn't want you to know anything, because I don't see how you can forget what you've learned. And I don't see how they can ask people to be confidential retrospectively. So if it had been a confidential meeting, it should have been cited as such. And I think Roger's quite right. We should ask for the information and put an information request in. Because I don't think it would be very useful, even though they didn't get enough roundabouts in the study, I understand. They missed some out, didn't they, in the calculations, and there was lots of things which they hadn't done. It would be nice to be able to sit and discuss that, wouldn't it? So I think Roger's right, and I'm unamused as the Buckinghamshire Council. And I think also, by not saying what they said, they actually put councillors at risk in the meeting of putting stuff out in the public domain. And it's out there and been discussed in the public domain now, so it's not private.
Can't ring a bell.
No.
Well, we were told a week later still, but we could put it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, company member Fran, in view of what Roger said, I would be happy to accept an amendment.
That's what I was going
About
to
freedom of
propose.
information request, Fran.
That's what I was going to propose, that we amend
Second that.
the motion to include that this committee requests that Buckinghamshire Council makes public with immediate effect the updated reports on the future A41 corridor with recommendations for Buckingham. And we also ask for a freedom of information request to be placed with Buckinghamshire Council to get all the documentation that they hold on this basically.
Thank you. Seconded by Lisa. John.
You can't do that. As a public authority, we don't have the power to submit a freedom of information inquiry. Only individuals can do that.
Okay.
We cannot do it as a body.
Oh.
And Steve will
Didn't know
verify.
that.
Well, could I ask that we ask the Buckingham Society to do a free information?
That we can do.
Would that be a reasonable way forward?
So let my motion stand as it is, but Buckingham Society, they would put in
That's all right, yeah.
Can Buckingham Society do it? They're not an individual.
No, but an individual can submit. An individual can submit. I would suggest do it on the website whereby it's published, because what Buckinghamshire
What would that be?
don't have.
Would you be?
He's written it down.
So is everyone happy?
Yeah.
With that?
That's cool.
I was also going to say that you can't retrospectively make a meeting confidential. And I would say that it's possibly a little bit near the knuckle, shall we say, to actually include that within the letter that goes to
It is in my
Buckinghamshire.
motion.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's rested
yeah.
retrospectively despite being given all this, yeah.
Yeah, okay, no, that's fine.
Thank you. Robin, and then John.
And whether it's relevant to decide, but one of the things which being named confidential, it must have been considered under the code of conduct issues of being needed to be confidential, in which case there must have been some advice posted that said that this needs to be confidential. So I don't think it's.
You can't make things confidential.
No, but what I was trying to get to was saying that it may be worth us, whether it's worth writing monitor officer to ask what the advice was that brought the conclusion that a public meeting which was public then had to be confidential, and could they advise us on which advice they gave to make it so? Because that might be interesting to read. I don't know if that's because we have to understand there must have been some thought that we're not party of that took place somewhere, which the legal officer or somebody must have advised them for good reason. We can't presume it's just for being told that suddenly this has to be confidential. So I don't know how the chair feels about that, as because we can do that at the council, ask the advice of the monitor officer gave.
I would prefer to walk before we run, just get this one in, and then, yes, that would be a follow-up.
Yeah.
I mean, my feeling about this is that for some reason they don't trust the dozen town and parish councils who attended that meeting. Why, I have no idea at all, because we've had so much input over the last 18 months into this, but then we've been fobbed off all the time, and we now got to this site. Jane is targeting, just for John first, then Jane.
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, if there's a combination item on our agenda, when you actually vote according to the Local Government Act, that it should be confidential, then we have a discussion off camera, and then we don't report on that other than through the minutes that are made of the meeting. I think this whole fiasco will go in the Oxford English Dictionary as any definition of closing the door after the whole policy, because it's ridiculous. And as anybody knows, you talk to a journalist, you don't say this is off the record at the end. You say that before you say anything. It is completely ludicrous what's been happening. But frankly, I would say, and they've given no reason, as far as I'm concerned, from what you say, Master Con, as to why they've done this. This should be a public record. You know, I mean, all of it is now up for grabs, given the the development of the Buckingham bow, aka the Oxford Cambridge, whatever, or something. The whole thing needs to be out in the open so that people can scrutinise it and look at it. Now, certain things obviously are going to be in discussion at the moment, but if there's a public report which is paid for out of the public purse, then it should be open and clear. And I support your motion 100%.
Thank you, Jane.
Well, I was going to say, while we're sort of concerned about the A41 as it runs through our wonderful town, we now have the Oxford-Cambridge Arc as a sort of project which is going to be put before us, which in some ways I'm rather keen on. But presumably, I mean, this sounds like an odd way of doing business. There must be a slightly odd reason for it. And I'm just wondering whether, I don't know what the timing was of the announcement of the Oxford-Cambridge Arc and when this was suddenly went into confidentiality. So I just wonder whether there's a report there that
It's what's 12th December that
There can't be any.
Councillor Broadbent told us, asked us not.
He wouldn't know.
So,
Just a thought, was there, because obviously some of you have seen the slides, was there a company name on them?
That's why
Atkins.
Yeah. Because they might be copyright, but I wouldn't say that they're confidential. So it might be something that Atkins have done. Because if normally it would have Buckinghamshire Council on them or something.
But if they've,
But if they've been shown in a public place,
but
then
if they've been tasked by Buckinghamshire to do this piece of work, that piece of work belongs to Buckinghamshire, does it not?
it does.
Yeah.
But they might just still there up, could be wrong, but you know.
Quite possible.
Anyway, let's take a bit of a.
Anyway,
Yeah, we'll send that.
can we
in.
go to the vote, please?
Okay.
Maybe I just say it.
So, before you my motion, it's been seconded, all those in favour?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Nine meetings.
We're obliged to Buckingham Society for their input by making a freedom of information request. Thank you. Item 9, Buckinghamshire Council matters. Receive news of Buckinghamshire Council new documents. Do we have anything, Steve or Catherine? Okay, and other information from Buckinghamshire Council members present.
Yeah,
The floor is yours.
I'll stay on the chair, probably retired here. Just to say that couldn't bring it up till now because of the way the meetings have been scheduled. It is a planning issue. In December of 2024, there was a motion before Buckinghamshire Council which would have affected and had influence on our business to do with the local plan, which was to accept money from the government or the principle of discussing it. That was unanimously voted down by the controlling group, which leaves us in a position where either they didn't like the money or they didn't like the social housing. It was unclear because they used procedural motions to prevent it from being discussed, which then we had a long discussion about the minute. And I've sorted that out now, how it should be recorded in the minutes, and it will be. So that's a worry. And then, of course, we've had the announcement of the Cambridge Arc. But of course, that's only an announcement. So presumably, at some point, we'll get to discuss that. When it comes to the planning issues, how to put it? One of the things which I think we do need to discuss is you recall that we did some work on which came to this council about the position of long-term planning and growth and infrastructure and seal and how it works. But it would appear that Buckinghamshire Council wants to implement the seal. So I don't know the timing of that, which would be good if they did, because we'd have some continuity across Buckinghamshire. So they haven't sort of been timed that out and when it's going to take place. One of the other matters that they are discussing around, trying to think around the planning issues, is because it makes a huge difference to the way we plan our services, and our plan, I believe, was written with still in it, in the sense the local plan, so if it still happens, we can use it. So I think that's something that we need to be minded about. It makes a difference. One of the things that concerns me with them is, Catherine, I recall when we had the Kindred Road development, and these agreements are drafted, that means the new council will have to be really, really sharp to make sure that all new developments don't say Buckinghamshire on them when it comes to contributions, and how we ensure that, as we're likely to get large amounts of development in North Buckinghamshire, that development benefits North Buckinghamshire and not South Buckinghamshire. So I think that's something I think that I'm aware of, and I'm aware of the concerns. I will be going to discuss some stuff with the secondary school tomorrow around what they're doing. I'm also concerned when I look at the, though we may have temporarily secured, permanently secured a wonderful facility for special educational need. Of course, the front end of the building was supposed to be for adult care, and that's not going to be the case post-election. So that's when we discussed all the planning of that here, the agreement with the building, it was all agreed here, and we understood, and the council understood, that it was a dual purpose building, with the front of the building would be retained for adult social care, and the money was put into it, and it was funded from money principally from within this area. So I think it's interesting that now, because of the way that the business is going for the council, the actual decision of the consultation won't, if so that took place on that, means that it won't be discussed until June of the next year, which means the parents of all those children across Buckinghamshire, and of the, some of them are in Buckingham, believe it or not, are in the wind, really, because the decision's all in the consultations. We all know once they get that consultation of people's feelings, they'll act accordingly, won't they, like they have with every other consultation. So I am concerned about that. But it's an interesting fact, isn't it, that a planning application goes through to agree for one purpose and then it's disregarded in the financial decision. So I'm worried about that. And which we come back to the whole point of planning. I'm also going to hopefully have a meeting on the 11th, which I've arranged, which is something we've discussed here about the drainage, suds and flooding, which I've been pushing for, because flooding and drainage is not just the river, it's not just the infrastructure, it's the way that buildings are being constructed. Now, I think I might be getting a meeting on the 11th to be confirmed, because what I've learned is that this isn't straightforward in the sense that the legislation around suds and drainage isn't straightforward, and how we get those stuff going to committee. Now, I have thankfully been reminded by the chair to attempt to call an application in, but I seem to be in a constitutional quagmire at the moment, where other people in Buckingham are saying, this is my reason why I called it in late, was because I didn't understand what my ground to call something in was, and I made some comments around sewage and drainage, which is one of the most prominent points. So I am concerned how we actually, where we are with planning, where it goes forward, and how it actually settles. And we do need, my view is there's no certainty, as I tried to intimate earlier, on when the Buckingham plan would be delivered. And I think it's something we should be minded to as a town council, that we want the Buckinghamshire plan to be delivered because it puts some certainty into the planning grounds. And if it isn't delivered in an orderly manner and not within the keeping of what I believe the MPPF says, then who just deliver it? Does that mean that that won't be delivered by Buckinghamshire Council and it will be delivered by an external source? So that's what I understand through listening to stuff. How it will all turn out, we don't know. But I think from the Buckingham Town Council point of view here, we need to make sure that at every point we are consulted, because there has not been a full meeting discussing the Buckinghamshire plan on Buckinghamshire Council for a very, very long time. Not a briefing, nothing, not a public briefing, intimations that it's progressing. There's been no public statement around progression that work. And the biggest thing that Buckinghamshire was going to do, and you will recall when the unitary was formed, one of the main things when it was formed, it was supposed to deliver a Buckinghamshire plan by 2025. And of course that is not happened, has it? So, so on its first trip round the wheel, it didn't deliver its plan. We shouldn't be surprised at that, because the district council struggled to deliver their plan. So, but it is important that actually we do study everything that comes up, because in the end, that plan will define the amount of houses that we have in our area, not our, and that might be how it defines. What happens in the MPF will just be the higher number of houses, but how they're actually delivered, it will still work by the same percentages as what's in that plan. I'm concerned that one might be consulted about things, but I am really concerned that there's no information of substantial information back with the towns and the parishes. And I think, you know, and of course, I was pleased to read that Westbury had its neighbourhood plan agreed, and that they had a majority, small numbers of people, but it's not a large village. So that went through. So that's encouraging, and they must be pleased that they've got their neighbourhood plan. So hopefully when we have ours go out, we get a similar result.
Thank you, Ron. John?
Just to reinforce what Robin's saying there about SUDs. I'm not convinced that SUDs work. I think they often seem to be more cosmetic than actual. And I've been told, I've not been able to check, but I have been told, for example, the SUDs on Morton Road Phase 1 never fills up. I can report that the SUD scheme near me where I live, opposite the football ground on Clapham Road, that hardly fills up as well. I think the one on the new estate Rumble does fill up. I've seen that filled up, but I do wonder seriously whether they're doing the job that they're meant to do, and whether they were actually ever really properly plumbed in, as it were, to do the job that they are meant to be doing. And I think it's responsibility of the planning department in the Shire Council to do some evaluation of this, and to make sure that they are doing, and if they're not doing what they're meant to do, to get on the case with the developer and say, make them work, because you've got the planning on the basis of them. They're not working, you've got to make them work.
Thank you, Roger, and then Lucy.
As far as sewage goes, somebody told me the other day that there is legislation in the House of Commons that actually local authorities can refuse applications if the sewage works is at capacity. So I need to find out what that is. So I'll go back and ask this person, who's a bit of an expert on secondment, which would be quite useful. I'm just talking to what John mentioned about where the old sewage works was that's a balancing pond, it's not SUDs. So that should take excess surface water off that estate.
Yeah.
So it's not actually plumbed in, because all the surface water from Tudor Meadows goes into the existing drains. So it doesn't take a couple of inches of water in there at the time, yeah.
It was one of the choices, has.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roger. Okay, sorry, Lucy.
That's all right. So it was just to come back to John about that one in particular, because I was doing some research into it and I looked at the original 106 agreements from like 1992, which is when it was first planned, when it was first approved. And yeah, like Roger says, it was meant to just take the surface water from Stratford's estate, but also the design of it, because I've been back and forth with some of the guys from Buckinghamshire Council, the design of it is such that it's not really meant to, it's done with alluvial gravels, and there's a sort of, you can see from the aerial view, there's like a herringbone pattern under the grass, and that all kind of points towards like land drains and stuff, so it's not, it's a different type of kind of structure than the one you see at St Rumbold's, which is, I believe that is fed from there. On one side of the road, you've got the actual the attenuation basin, and then the other side you've got there's an underground tank, and so all of the street drains go into that tank, which then the tank then goes into that pond, which is what the basin, which is why that was obviously seen as much. It's always much fuller than the other one. I can't remember the man's name. Robin will probably know, because I did copy him into this one correspondence.
Don't mention officers.
Okay, so I spoke to someone and he said that they do regular kind of inspections, and next time he's down this way, he will be having a look to make sure it is functioning as it should be. But he said that from looking at the photos.
Lucy, thanks for that from this should be questions to Robin about his report, basically. So
yeah, I was very.
Do you want to answer, John?
Yeah, I'm very happy, and I was actually hanging back because I knew Lucy had been doing some work on part of what John was asking.
That would be for another meeting.
But what I would say to John is that you would mention the Mays Morton Road. Now, what I'm ever concerned about is, and what I can do anything about, is Mays Morton Road 3. What I can tell you is that I have had meetings, because my concern's twofold. One is that land, hopefully one day, agreement will be the town councils, and two, there's issues there, period. So I am in discussions with them, John, about the details of how the studs work there, and at a point of my choosing or a point when I want to bring it out, because I don't really need competition in that conversation. Because at the moment we're getting somewhere with it. At this stage, it'd be a shame to, it's more about solving the problem than anything. I want to solve the problem, John. Very happy to talk a bit more fluid about it, but I don't really need to explain where I am with the conversation with it, only to assure you that it has been going on for several months. And the reason it's going on is because it all started with miles away from the bloody development. And when I raised concerns on that, I am being nothing more than consistent with my view when I put in comments about that application, which of course is where it is, it's approved, went for appeal and whatever, but I am consistent in that, because we need to actually make sure that SUDs work and they actually function at their capacity, because if they don't, it then burdens other properties and other places and other people. I won't say for a legal reason why, but I think that we need to be very careful that we do that. And I think one of the things, my view is, in trying to be brief, I think it's more important than ever that the town council's role in these things is to look at those elements around those agreements, because I think evidence suggests that there's a difference between the old developments like where I live, that had no drainage and such and stuff, and they just relied on the fact that they had a ditch and a river and they put the water, and where new developments do have to take this in, and that might be something where I'm trying to focus, because unless you can look for the future solutions, you're not going to change the past. So I'm doing a lot of work on it, but I'm purposeful in it, and it goes back over 12 or 18 months. But I am following it up, John, and I'm very willing to sit down and be a bit more fluid outside the meeting, but I don't want to prejudice the officers I'm working with, and I don't want to prejudice where we are with it. But I am, for the ground spaces manager is aware of what I'm doing, because it is of interest to the ground spaces manager, because of our, or the town councils, remember which I'm speaking of, the town council has stated in the section 106 we asked to put in is, look, we consider taking that playing fields over. So that's why I'm including Lee in the conversations, because he needs to understand that, so that whenever the new council or ever gets to make that decision, they're assured that they're taking it over. Whatever. So I'm trying to be preventative rather than aggressive and critical in this.
Thank you, Robert. Jane, you have a question for Robin?
Yes, I was just going back to, you were talking about the infrastructure levy earlier on, and whether the county council, the Shire Council, whatever you call it, whether they would take it or have control over it somehow. I've just been having a very quick look, and I don't know whether this helps, on the description of legislation. The levy will also give communities more control over how this money is spent. A portion of the money will be passed directly to communities as a neighbourhood share.
Correct.
To fund their infrastructure priorities, while councils will be required to engage with communities and create an infrastructure delivery strategy. So the wording sounds a little bit more hopeful, but of course, as we know, we'll see how it works out.
So if that's the question, what will happen with SIL is, because we've got a made neighbourhood plan, or the town council, I'm not talking as a town council here, as a made neighbourhood plan, they would get 25% of the SIL. At not the, because there isn't SIL now, it's section 106. So having a made neighbourhood plan gives you strength, unless they're going to change the legislation between when I last looked at it. And it is look like there should be more community engagement. My worry with it, Jane, is history has said that community engagement, forget who runs the authority, is never that good. And that's why I try to say that it's never been so important that we make sure we hold, or the town council makes sure it holds its ends up in the development. Because when we had, and I tried to say, when Catherine spotted in the section 106, but I think it was Chinford Road, that the money was going to go to Buckinghamshire, which he hadn't spotted in that agreement. made sure it was changed to Buckingham. I didn't see it. I was looking at it. I missed it completely. Catherine saw it. I didn't. That would have gone through as a legal document, and that meant the money for education in Buckingham from the receiving houses could have gone anywhere. And that's what I was trying to say. It's about a Buckingham thing rather than a Buckinghamshire Council thing. And I'm Buckingham. I'm not actually living in Wickham. I'm sure they're pleased about that. But
Could we?
does that help answer your question?
Just a simple comment,
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Well, thank you for your report, and thank you for everyone's interest. Can we move on to item 10, updates from representatives of outside bodies? Do we have any? No, thank you. In that case, item 11, action reports. This is something you haven't seen for a while. November was the last time we had action reports, because we've had the first standalone planning committee we've had since then.
Question, Chairman. Who makes the decision when we don't have an action report? Because I do worry that because we haven't had it. You're saying that
The town clerk, when the agendas are drawn up, we have back-to-back meetings. We've got quite a lot of items. The action report is one of them.
do you get involved in that discussion?
No.
Why not?
No, I have done.
Because I would have, because
I'll have to defer to Steve for this, because I don't know what happens behind doors.
Well, when there's a planning meeting that follows a full council meeting, the planning meeting agenda is paired back. So members and officers aren't here half the night to work through all the business. So it's the important matters of the planning applications that are considered. Nevertheless, in law, the agenda is a matter for the clerk, regardless.
second question. So the councillors are necessary then. So we should, when it comes to other authorities, they put in the constitutions about drawing agendas and what goes on the agenda and how they do it, and they actually don't allow you to have things on the agenda. So maybe it's something we should set the new council looking at terms of reference about how we do agendas, because it's some of these things are
It's a matter of law, and it's different for different levels of councils, but that item's not on the agenda to debate tonight.
No, I was just asking a question. I was saying for the future thing, you might need to.
I don't think, without the town clerk being present, we should take this budget. John?
We took the decision some months ago, in fact, even probably some years ago, and when we had a meeting as well as the interim meeting, we would cut back on the planning agenda. That was a decision that we all took. Now that can be reversed, Robin, and we can change that. But actually, we meet as this committee way more than any other committee, apart from the communications committee, which meets more than anything else. But this meeting meets more because we've got to fit in with planning timescales and so forth. So it's about managing our time on busy nights, so that we're not here until more than 10 o'clock, when we would normally try and obviously finish things by, or even by 9 o'clock and so on. So I don't have a problem. We just need to make sure that we follow up now. And the question I've got is, when are we going to get a report on the Section 106? That's been saying now for several months now. We keep asking questions about Section 106 monies. This is a time critical matter. We've already, some of the dates have already gone, and the other ones will be upon us very soon. We need to know just where we can ensure, because we've seen certain things fall by the wayside because time has run out. Health centre is one of them, obviously. We need a report back soon. I would demand, if you like, that it's at the next meeting about what can this council do to ensure that Section 106 monies are properly spent on improving the infrastructure in the town. That's the task that we gave the town clerk and her team. And generally, I'm waiting to see that report because it's critical to the future of this town. So please, can I request that the project compliance officers here tonight, that we actually make sure that we minute this is urgent, this is important, we need that report.
It does say in the action is the matter sits with the full council, so it's now out of our hands.
We can still comment.
Yeah.
And I think as the planning committee, because we're the ones that look at Section 106 way more than the full council, we can still comment.
Yeah, fine. Thank you. Fran, you were next.
I was just going to point out that A, it sits with full council, and B, I believe it will be on the next agenda,
Yeah.
but don't hold me to that.
Just because we don't have an action report each meeting, doesn't mean that things aren't still going on.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Sorry, Jane was next. And then-
Well, I'm just going to say it's always very worrying when you see ongoing in any action log. And I don't know who can, if it was, I was chairing, I'd say, let's put a date in there, suggest, because ongoing, well, means nothing's going to happen. Anyway, I'm reassured by what Councillor James is saying, so I'm hoping that ongoing means, when would it be, Fran?
Next full council is my
March?
understanding,
Maybe, there'll be some time.
next full council. I can't
Yeah,
remember
whenever
the
next
date.
full council is. we'll find
But
out.
as I say, that is my understanding of it,
Not holding you to
but
it.
that may not be the case.
Yes, no, I
And
just suggested.
that will be down to the clerk with the mayor, when they put that agenda together.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting a deadline would be helpful.
Robin?
I put a request in September. I have been privileged enough to see all the correspondence and read all the correspondence and have all the correspondence going back to previous Trampa. And I have submitted in good time that these matters should come to the council. Me knowing all that information has no relevance whatsoever as far as I'm concerned. And I think my view is that it does need to be discussed, and thank you, John, for seeing it on the action list, because if it's not on, it may be on the action list of this committee, because we always used to discuss between meetings and make recommendations about stuff in section 106, that's why it sits on here. We'd make recommendations to full council of what we yeah, the wish list, and full council would agree it. You wouldn't discuss it at full council. So I understand John's thing, but I have written and I have got correspondence and provided copy. So my anticipation is, it says, as long as it's before the Friday of the date of the last meeting, and it was submitted well in advance. So I think there's been enough Fridays and enough time, so it should make its way to the agenda. What form that appears on is not my choice, is it? Because I'm not the clerk. So, but that information should appear on the agenda. So I've done my bit. I can't do no more than that because I've been discussing this issue for months.
Thank you. Other things on the action list, you'll notice at the bottom of the first page, Town and Parish Quarterly Forum meeting. We have been chasing for an answer to the question I put to Buckinghamshire Planning back in November, that call-ins to Committee of Planning applications, the BC Constitution is specific that under the procedure rules that the Service Director and Chairman or Vice Chairman in his absence will determine whether or not to call in. But we're seeing more and more determined by the Service Director, Chairman and Vice Chairman. If the Constitution has been changed to give 3 persons, not 2 delegated authority, please inform us when and by whom. We're still waiting for an answer despite 2 reminders in December and in January. Would you wish that we continue to chase this, John?
Absolutely. I was going to say there is a BM Parish Liaison meeting on the 13th of February at 5:30 at the Gateway in Aylesbury. I cannot make it. I'm going out there. Something else. But if somebody else wants to go to that, there would be scope to raise it on the agenda. There's always open questions on the agenda. It helps not to submit those in advance, but that sort of question could be raised.
Well, this is a question put directly to BC Planning, so we're expecting their service.
I think ask questions all over the shop.
Yeah, but
Councillor Cole, they might then get an answer.
Now, what I'm saying is, this one on here is a question that's put direct to the Service Director, and we're surprised, even astonished, after 3 months, he's not yet come back on what is a simple question. Lucy?
Would it be something that was worth forwarding the original question and the responses to Democratic Services to say that we're entitled to a response and we've not actually had a response?
That's a very good suggestion, Lucy. Yeah. What do members feel?
Yeah, good idea.
Catherine, could we ask you to do that? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Robin?
Yeah, having changed the constitution once on Buckinghamshire Council to allow parishes to have the right to call in, it seems to be an absolutely damp script, that one, didn't it? Because although you've got the right to call them in, it seems to be that you haven't got the right to call them in because somebody else says you haven't got the right to call them in. So even though in the constitution you have, that was on the grounds that the parish charter said that that was on that, and they agreed it, and then it went for it. And then, of course, we tried to change the constitution again to allow the one member calling and not three member calling because it wasn't working. You couldn't get a 3 member calling in Buckingham for love and the money, and they decided to say that that was going to change when the election happened, and the constitution will have to reflect the boundaries and the seats, whatever. So presumably there will be one constitution for the whole of Buckinghamshire and one for Buckingham, or will they allow individual members to call it in? Be interested to see how it drafts, but I do think the whole thing is unfair on the councillors in their position, because I don't think the constitution states that it's, as the chairman first said, the constitution states, in my memory of it, is that the chairman and the lead officer will do it. And they've started to put chairman and vice chairman in, which is unfair on the vice chairman because the constitution doesn't give them that power, but it does give the vice chairman the power to act as the chairman if the chairman's unable to. And that's how the constitution reads. So it's almost grown evolving. I wish I could evolve the constitution in that way by a form of word, but I do think it's an important question. I'm surprised it hasn't been answered. I've already submitted a written question to cabinet, so I would have taken it.
Agree that we're going to,
but I think
ask democratic services. So is there anything to add to that?
Well, the other thing I would say that if we have no answer and we get nothing by one more meeting before Purdah, where it could be part of a written question to get a written answer to why not, and which hopefully we'd have got the answer by then, because you only allow one question per officer per department. So, but I do think it's not good, is it? It's not good when you ask a question. If they just say, well, no, that'd be fine. But you've asked a question.
It wasn't a written question at the quarterly planning in November,
and it should be answered.
Yeah.
And if democratic services,
that's the whole point. Yeah.
I'd quite like to see the nature of the correspondence from the councillors. You don't see it, so I presume we'll know it's gone, and I presume we'll hear it's there. But so
can we move on to the next item?
Yeah, please.
Unless anyone else has got any questions on the action list? No, thank you. Buckinghamshire are going to receive action reports as per the attached list. Appendix A you have there.
That was appendix A.
Appendix B then. Yeah, this is in answer to our concerns about the signs being hung up in the town for Buck's sake, which some members of the public and on Facebook reported as offensive. You'll see there is a reply there from.
Not quite.
Here we are. Yeah. Yeah, we had a response here from the head of communications engagement. They apologise for not replying within 20 working days, considerably longer than that.
Well, at least you didn't say we were a tosser.
They said they didn't consider them offensive and it closed the case. So,
I think they've all got wind damaged and gone away now.
probably a bit past that. I don't think there's
Divine intervention.
any point to make.
Well, I've read through this, I've done some research behind it. The Don't Be a Tosser is a campaign mounted by the Keep Tidy group, which is a charitable body, not a public body. And it can do what it wants in that sense. And to use that as a justification for their campaign, I think is nonsensical. And the For Cup's Sake campaign, it was local to Bristol. Again, not a national campaign. So I think citing those two examples as some justification is irrelevant. Frankly, I'm glad that the signs have gone. But I would be asking them back. I would suggest that we reply and say, has it been evaluated? Like any good marketing campaign, has it been evaluated? What's been the impact? Has it made any difference? Surely, it would have cost quite a lot of money. It's an important point as a public purse. that we understand whether it was good value. or not.
Yeah.
Which means they should reevaluate it. Have they done an evaluation? If not, why not?
Yeah, good question. Propose that.
Yeah, I'm proposing.
Second, please.
Hey,
Lisa seconded it.
Yeah.
Right, can we go this to vote? We've got quite a lot to get through yet. Robin, unless you,
No, I'll have my hand up ready and I'll say something.
okay, right, all those in favour? Thank you. Is that clear, Paul? No, but
It's your hands there.
Yep.
We should write back, Paula, and I'll see.
Yes, I've got that, I just didn't see how many voted.
So Chris, again, just see how many voted. Thank you. Right, all those in favour? Right, we need to count this.
Apart from Martin
Several.
and Fred.
It's nine, I can see 9 votes.
Any against? Abstentions? Oh, 2 abstentions. Thank you.
And growing.
Right,
It might be worth asking, a local council if, you know, whether they checked whether there was any, in Bucks. I mean, you know, Bucks is used somewhere else, and whether whenever we use the word Bucks again somewhere else, people are gonna, misappropriate it. Words get misappropriated. It could become a term of less than endearment in the future, couldn't it? You could be called a buck.
which you said in response, it's been used all over the county, we're sort of the end of the line, so.
Yeah.
I think, as you say, unless, if we can raise it to stage 2, but like, we wouldn't expect to apply to it within 3 months.
Oh, right, okay.
I think we're long gone by. Thank you. Other things in Appendix B, signage on listed buildings. We've had some feedback about the White Hart Hotel, the Old Town Hall. This is, oh, so I've moved on to enforcement, haven't I? So I've got that here as well.
Yeah, signage, 11.2.
Yeah, that's the,
page 18 of 52.
right, this is to do with the Old Town Hall. Catherine, you'd just like to fill everyone in on what happened?
Well, it was Councillor Ralph who raised it in the first
Yeah.
place. That there was an inconsistency with responses, including basically with the White Hart housing system. The heritage officer offered no objection whatever. The senior officer has now escalated that and taking the strip lighting, which was not on part of the application at all, and is incredibly garish, to enforcement. So there's some wins and some we're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah, regarding the White Hart, you've requested the enforcement team consider a compromise to get the lighting levels reduced of all the floodlights with a new enforcement case at number 4 on the removal of the strip lighting from both buildings. So we have sort of part victory there.
The town hall, they've got their commission in parts.
In part, yeah.
So some of the lighting that they've got up there has got to go, and one strip of the wording has got to go.
Yeah.
And they've got until the end of their 6 months to appeal. So if it doesn't appeal, then we'll do enforcement again.
Then the old market house, what was Prezzo is now May, about modern materials. They decided that,
Apparently polycarbonate is not a modern material as used on the town hall. It is on there.
you couldn't make it up. Anyone got any comments on any of that? Martin?
Yes, the White Hart, although I'm against uplighting, and they've had it there for long enough, unfortunately, they should maintain it because there was at least one of them which was lighting more of the sky than the building when I looked last, while I was out on the town painting it red.
Oh, well, Town hall.
So again, they need to maintain it and tilt it back to the building so that that's where it's going. And as we're on that, and then the maze one, they do have purple uplighting there. So maybe we ought to get that in now before it becomes a long time thing. Because it's still in the conservation area.
Yeah, well, we already have
This
this.
building.
We actually raised it to the enforcement.
We raised the uplighting. I don't
Not
think,
on May, we have.
no, I don't think we did.
It was the actual signage on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, not the uplighting on May. There's two purple lights.
oh, okay.
So
would you like to leave that till we get to enforcement?
Sorry, yes.
Thank you, let's do that at the end then, good, excellent. So I think that covers everything on, oh, wait, the other two at the bottom, yeah.
PCOs on Linden Village.
Just for information, I've just been told that the White Hart are putting in better blackout blinds for their rooms. Outside is so bright. People staying in the hotel are saying they can't get to see them. So
I was
to be
concerned.
do that.
The last time we had decent blackout blinds in Buckingham, there was a war on.
So just to finish off then, Linden Village tree preservation orders, just to confirm, please, on the land of the Hazley Walk have now been TPO'd under the Town and Country Planning Act, so those have been stayed.
Almost every tree on the estate, so.
Yeah.
Good.
And some hedge.
This is following the recent auction and purchase of the.
Fabulous.
Yeah, good.
The green space. And then finally, April Cottage, just by the bottom of the hospital road here. Heritage officers checked with colleagues and this property is on our radar, but unfortunately due to work pressure, we haven't been able to follow up on our buildings at risk for a while.
Oh, dear.
However, it's something we as a team are keen to pick up and we're scheduled to review buildings at risk in an upcoming team meeting. Following this, my colleague assigned to the case will follow up appropriately.
You're not saying when, though, was
These are all
it?
the important issues that we reported.
Appropriately means sometime, somewhere.
Not saying ongoing, it's like,
Yeah.
no date.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a question of venturing this far north, thinking about county is.
Difficult.
Right, so
It goes a bit further as well.
I know. They didn't make it this far, so they're not going to make it to Silverstone, are they?
Right, item 12, Buckinghamshire Council meetings, North Bucks Area Committee, you've heard of this, it's been cancelled. Strategic Sites was cancelled in January. Infrastructure and Housing Select Committee 30th of January was held, and Transport, Environment and Climate Change Select Committee next week, 13th of February. Members to discuss and agree submission of questions for this meeting. The November meeting, I put 3 questions, and you'd be told you're only allowed 1. So we have 2 questions still outstanding. They are both here.
Don't they know how many hats you wear, Chairman?
No, it's just how it is. The constitution is not what I call democratic. And I play the constitution very well.
I'm just trying to.
And I find it doesn't really allow for proper discussion.
Appendix C.
So the 2 questions I wanted to put were both regarding flooding and water. I'm not able to put both, so we're going to ask a member to put the first one, which is shown as question 2 from my previous thing, about flood prevention and mitigation. Councillor Harvey, you expressed an interest in putting this?
Yeah, certainly. What do I need to do? Can it be done on my behalf, or do I need to send it in?
I will send the question in.
Well, attach my name to it.
Yes, and I.
Fine, thank you.
So the
Thanks,
question,
John.
just the questions for everyone's information, will Buckinghamshire Council as the local planning authority accordingly, this reference, our first question about flood prevention mitigation, will they refuse future permissions to development on floodplains in accordance with national planning policy framework guidelines? We were dismayed that in 2018, the former Aylesbury District Council approved the building of a care home in the centre of Buckingham on flood zones 2 and 3, the use of which for housing, especially for vulnerable people, is contrary to the NPPF. That's the question.
I think we need to remove the bracketed bit.
Well, Catherine will, I just said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that just referenced.
So it won't make sense then.
So is everyone happy for John to put that?
Yeah.
Thank you, we don't need a vote on that. But
No, just, can I ask?
yeah, Robin.
You can go and put it in person.
I'm not going out of that meeting. Put it in remotely, Robin, it's okay.
remotely.
I can put it in your name and have it reconciled.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
It just upsets the kilt of the meeting if you turn up, John. They get very upset about that.
Yeah, well, I've got something else on that.
Have you, bless you?
From experience in November, I spent a whole morning down there to put a 3-minute question and they couldn't answer it when I was there.
Yeah, so, no.
Yeah,
I hate the way we-
the second question, which I'm happy to put still, if members are, is that much has been made of the planned Thames Water Sewer Network investment in Great Missenden, Amersham and the Child Fonts. And that was at the November 2024 Select Committee. But no mention has been made of Anglian Water and Buckingham. Well, Buckinghamshire Council, as the local planning authority, refused or delayed permission for further development in Buckingham, and the village is reliant on Anglian Water's Buckingham Water Recycling Centre till it can deal with the increased drainage and wastewater. Anglian Water stated it cannot start to upgrade the site until it has offer approval for a new business plan funded by customer bills. The developments on Walnut Drive, Maids Morton, and Osier Way, Buckingham, currently awaiting reserved matters approval, which are directly affected by this. I'm happy to put that question. Members are. John?
Can we add to the end, and we ask this for Buck's sake?
Yeah, I think it should. I think you're right, John. Now it's should you.
No.
I'm not going down there. A written question. Thank you. So those are both go to the Select Committee on February the 13th.
Yeah, I will be watching the meeting to see what they say.
Thank you very much. Right. The appendix D is the first question I put to the in November. It speaks for itself, unless anyone's got any comment on that. Fairly line involved. And, thank you.
Thank you for sending it in.
Right. Also under appendix D, you'll see this correspondence from Kate Pride, who is chairman of the Oscar Maysbolton Action Group. This is over Walnut Drive. There's been a lot happening with Anglian Water, who's now been told that although Ofwat has approved their business plan to upgrade Buckingham Water Recycling Centre, we're still in the process of understanding what this means for us as a business. We're reviewing and analysing results. Discussions between Anglian Water and Ofwat will be ongoing until the end of February. And as such, detailed planning outlining upgrades and timelines could take potentially 9 to 12 months. Speaking to the chairman of the NBCC the other day, he said that his best information intelligence is that the upgrades to the Buckingham Water Recycling Centre will not come into effect until 2029. We've got at least 3 planning applications hanging on that at the moment. Well, Walnut Drive, not ours. Of course, Manor Farm off Horton Road, and still Osier Way. John.
Yeah, just to say, obviously, I surveyed the information that I got from a freedom information, well, actually, environmental information inquiry to Anglian Water, just confirming what we already knew, but we've now got it in writing. That the sewage farm is over capacity. There was another point I was going to make, which I've now currently forgotten. Come back to me. I will think of it.
What was it?
I can't remember. Give me a moment.
But Anglian Water themselves have come back on the land south of Horton Road. This isn't for tonight, but our objections they've now backed up in the last few days by saying quite clearly, Anglian Water objects to any connection into our farm network from the proposed development. Manor Farm. A sustainable point of connection cannot be given due to development flows contributing to pollution and deterioration of the watercourse. So they're very firm about that in objecting to what we've already objected to.
That means nothing can be built.
Essentially, yeah.
On the other hand, you've got a national infrastructure plan that says everything's going to be built everywhere. Infrastructure money everywhere.
The world is rosy. Jane, it's devil's in the detail, Jane, that you would presume that was the case, but it never is. And when I put a post up with an answer around them very questions about where it is, and it appears that though common sense would say that couldn't happen, if my memory of the response from the legal officer was, though they have the grounds, they neither have the grounds to stop planning or to development, neither do the planning authority have the grounds to stop development, because the other one, even if both things are wrong, what it says, and I think I like to read the context of it again, but it's basically neither one has got the powers to stop it. So they can still get planning permission and they can still go forward, they can still have legal consent. So don't worry, it won't affect the government's growth plans if that's what you worry about. So basically the law has not been drafted logically. Two things don't make sense, Jane. One, when I was given a response,
Unstoppable force and it's removable.
no, it doesn't make sense. I was asking the question.
Anglian Water has a statutory duty to provide sewage.
As I said, this item is not actually on the agenda tonight. I'm just letting you know what is happening, and I hope parties will be covered by my question to the select committee, or John's question to the select committee, that they don't give the Buckinghamshire Council to the North Commission. Anything else under that he wants to raise? I will just, while we're on the subject, the town and parish planning forum should have been held on Monday, this morning.
At the same time as the North Bucks area planning surgery.
We were given notice of the meeting on Friday morning. I immediately contacted Peter Strachan and said this is totally unacceptable. It goes against the Buckinghamshire Council constitution, which says 5 days notice must be given for meetings, and it also goes against the town and parish charter, which says they will communicate in a timely fashion and time with everybody, blah, blah, blah. Within an hour, they'd cancelled the meeting or postponed the meeting. And I believe also there was a town and the parish.
They got mixed up with the liaison meeting.
Oh, that's what it was, yeah.
Which is what John was talking about earlier.
And then I had Darren Egleton, who's the service director planning, getting on to me, apologising profusely, and he blamed it all on BMK ALC, who hadn't sent out the requisite notice. We were talking earlier about, what official capacity does BMK ALC hold? Well, they send out notices for all the Buckinghamshire Council meetings, which aren't committee meetings. So there is definitely a connection. Anyway, so that was a small victory. We've got it postponed probably until the middle of February. So we will have a chance to attend. And of course, by the same token, no written questions could be provided because they overlooked sending out notice. John?
Is this what I was referring to a few minutes ago? This is the parish liaison meeting?
No, this is the town and parish planning forum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
there is a parish liaison meeting.
No, that's on February 13th, yeah. You mentioned it.
Someone needs to go to that.
But they confuse it.
Take chocolates, it's just before Valentine's Day.
So that's just really back of the report. So if we can move on to enforcement, you report any new breaches, item 13.1. Martin.
You may have heard somewhere that there are some purple lights that are beaming up into the sky, and they're located on a company called Maze Restaurant. I think we ought to log that so that we don't get caught similar to the White Hart.
How recently have those appeared?
Oh, I think almost since it opened.
Yeah. Thank you.
But you'd only see them at night, wouldn't you? So,
Yeah.
When I'm trying to concentrate on driving, which is immensely difficult, you go around the roundabout in the town centre, I'm distracted. We did a lot of work some years ago to get clutter and street clutter out of the town centre, which all the signs on the White Hart thing were removed and lessened, and it took quite a long time. Now we've gained a new sign right on the pavement, right as you come around the roundabout, which is telling you that you can go to the Villiers Hotel, which you can see, because I've seen it there it's been there a while now. I know it's there when I approach the hotel, and I know it's there, but there's a new sign appeared between the pots on the road, and I don't know whether that's really appropriate, because it distracts you when you're driving, because people could stop and look and read at it on a roundabout. So I think if you're going to have a sort of structure to read on a roundabout, you wouldn't have it on a roundabout. You'd have it as you approach a roundabout, or you'd have it whatever. Because I've noticed nationally, we never have instruction signs on the middles of roundabouts. I've noticed that in my observation. So I think that perhaps that one is probably not really in keeping with the goodwill of the highway code. Not that I'm claiming I'm an expert on highway code, I'm not going to lie.
Robin, sorry, is this a permanent board on the?
No, it's a temporary board.
It's an A board.
It comes out.
I think we've discussed it before,
Yeah, we have.
that's a really big one, yeah.
Well, it was only that it irritated me the other day. I was sat in traffic looking at it and thought, what the traffic? I was looking at it, we asked for it to be removed there. The A board in the middle of the farm.
Oh, no,
That's been a board.
steakhouse, the
Yeah.
Duke's, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it distracts you when you're driving, and you're looking at that, you could knock somebody down.
I will take another photograph and try again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John?
Mary's reported to me something weird that's happening on the path that connects Lemborough Road with Bluebell Close. It is not a road all the way, although she says it's part of the emergency access to Bluebell Close if it's required. And a number of posts about 2 foot tall have been put into the verge. She doesn't think it's the Shire Council. It might be a resident, but it does need looking into, because it could get in the way of emergency access to Bluebell Close.
That is between Lemborough.
Between Lemon Road, you go down Hunter Street,
Quite a wide path that goes up.
there's like a sort of path. If you go to the end of Hunter Street, you go to the end of Hunter Street, and you don't turn right to Mitre Street, but turn left, and it's just there in front of you, and it goes up the hill. There are a couple of houses on either side of it, and it then narrows to a smaller path, but obviously enabled, if necessary, a fire engine can still get up there. But somebody's put some posts.
Would you be able to get a photograph or someone? And
Mary has sent the photographs to me tonight,
Okay.
so I could forward those photographs to you, Catherine, if you want.
Where is she?
She is our regular viewer.
I think I know the area he's talking about, and I think the people that live up there use it for storing like wood and stuff, so the.
No, it's not on Lemon Road.
I think it's at the top of Number Road.
No,
No,
the path that goes.
It's off Lemon Road.
It's like a.
Under the railway bridge, there, left.
Benches,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where you are.
Yeah.
so from the mitre,
Yeah.
there's a path that goes up
Yeah.
the side there, that goes up
Like a brown
into
one.
Mount Pleasant Estate.
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my apologies.
No, Benjamin's Road, Benjamin.
Thank you, John. If you could send the photos. Any other enforcement matters? I've got 2 here to report. Telephone exchange has been taken over by a martial arts club at the moment. This, of course, is the subject of planning applications at the moment for conversion into flats. Catherine has reported it together with photographs.
I have the fastest reply from enforcement I've ever had.
It's change reduced and it's also
I
signage.
reported it to the officer for the planning application for making the building into 9 flats by adding 2 stories. And copied it to enforcement just as a backup. And she came back almost immediately saying, is this ongoing? So I nipped round the corner and took a photograph to prove that it was indeed ongoing.
Yes.
And there were structural changes being made as well.
Oh.
And within about 10 minutes, I've got an enforcement case number. I think that's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
The other one that has been reported by Mary is 50 Wells Street, listed building, they've put plastic windows in. Catherine again is on top of that. Thank you, Martin.
Yes, following the pantomime. There's always a follow on. The road signs or car park signs on the corner of the community centre, I think there's a minimum height they should be in.
We've had these before, haven't we?
Have we?
Yeah.
I mean, they are very low and they're not exactly smooth on the back side of them.
It was, this was reported, a good year ago, maybe more.
And
It's important.
Well, we've had more than our statutory calling off period. We can do it again then, can we?
We actually have public complaints about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could remind them.
I mean, they're lower than a car.
Oh, no, they're not. Yeah, we can report it again, Martin. I think it-
Yeah, I'll bring the camera down in the morning and do that.
Thank
So I
you.
do that on the way.
Yes, please. I
Anything
think
else
it's
on
like-
enforcement? In that case, to note, to receive updates
Chairman,
from, yeah, you got your updated planning enforcement list, Robin?
would it be worth reporting that we consider along the, I was fortunate to meet, John Barney, who once was a member of this, business about the circular walk. We report that the ditch, adjacent to the circular walk, which belongs to, Buckinghamshire Council, is blocked. And perhaps it might need, digging out, because it's adjacent there, unless we've already done it.
Is this what I was talking to you about, yesterday?
Were you?
Yeah, I was, yeah, and I've reported it on Fixham Street already.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. But not the
I've been
enforcement,
asleep since then.
not the enforcement.
Saturday.
Okay.
Oh, that wasn't
Maybe.
yesterday.
No, it wasn't, no, it was yesterday, it was definitely yesterday.
So Catherine has attached an updated list, appendix E, from update information from planning enforcement. Thank you. All noted.
Noted.
And item 13.3, just for information, 14 Market Street, Africombo, has been issued with an enforcement notice for installing that listed building consent, fascia board signage and advertisements on the front of the building. The notice was issued on the 28/11/24 and will take effect on 1st of January 25 if no appeal is lodged. In the meantime, that has now passed.
Yeah.
Has anything happened?
I know, I've not been returned recently.
Okay, if anyone could have.
I don't think there's been any alterations to it, I think it doesn't look any different.
Thank you.
Could we report to the town council that our sign on the entrance from Aylesbury is broken?
So Robin, we're on enforcement at the moment.
Well, we could enforce it against ourselves.
No, this is enforcement, reporting that is enforcement. Thank you. We'll come up in a minute, Robin, you'll get your chance. Item 14, rolling lists updates, tree felling applications.
Just a quick one on this, in 2024, the department 130 West Avenue, the Cherry, said it's to be replaced with a field maple of at least 8 to 10 centimetres square. Do you know if that's been done? Or
I have no idea, I mean, as councillor Braden knows, I'm not very mobile at the moment, so I haven't been able to go. Western Avenue is just too far.
If any member could have a look at some point, thank you very much. Land grab reports, you know, appendix G, calling requests,
Noted.
appendix H.
No.
Calling requests.
The land grab, so when did the statute book or the rule or everything say that it can be acceptable and we're not going to take expedient, it's not expedient to take action come into play?
Yeah.
Without having, you know, submit it for planning application and we'll do it a retrospective, which I hate anyway, but you know, that's the way it goes. How come it just gets the nod and the wink and off we go? Because surely there's still no legal document for that person if they then move on, thinking of the resident from their side of the house. Surely it needs legalising if, you know, they've gone outside their boundary, because it doesn't say that it was theirs and therefore it was dismissed. It just says it's an acceptable development, stroke, whatever.
It's because they give you the acceptable development stroke, not expedient to take action, which means that they were too busy to come this far.
Or it's just too small a thing to worry about.
Exactly.
But I'm worrying about it from the resident
Not
side, that they are going to need some documentation, because otherwise another lawyer's going to go, hey, this is not yours to sell.
And we've got to say, the buyer's solicitor should do a due diligence on it and see that it doesn't actually.
That's their issues, isn't it?
But then we'll come up to the 7 year and say, well, it's been like that for ages, so, you know, I'm having it anyway.
Well, we have evidence that we did report it.
Yeah. That's all we can do, Martin.
If they come to us and say, why is it like that, we say, well, you did report it to the authorities. So
It's just personal though, doesn't it? To say that they're not going to take any action, it's like the whole point of
it's really understaffed. It's
Not good
they've got
though.
to balance, you know, half a day's trip out to come and have a look at it, or not.
Oh, now I don't like that.
Yes.
We're as much an area that needs to be looked into as a nearer area.
Yeah. That's why we've got the, that's why we have the list, it's,
Right.
yes, don't want people taking land that doesn't belong to them.
Thank you. So, calling request, appendix H, high-low licenses, appendix I. Thank you for all the work you've done on this, Catherine.
Yeah.
Catherine.
Yeah. 15, high-low HMO policy to receive information requested, Buckinghamshire's policy. That's all there in writing. Noted.
Noted.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Quarterly update of section 106, payments, mitigation, etc., appendix J.
Much movement this quarter, I have to say.
Thank you. Item 17, planning statistics and analysis 2024. To receive Catherine's analysis and comparison tables for last year's applications. 121 applications, you'll notice, slightly down on the previous. Yeah, but that's generally county-wide, isn't it? Applications are down. I would point out some. We point out some of our applications have been big ones, major applications, so that makes up for the.
Yeah.
We are getting a lot more follow-up ones, so where they put in for a certificate of lawfulness and been refused, and then they've had to come back with exactly the same thing, sometimes exactly the same drawing.
You've got more TLCs there, now we've got some more FLCs in there, you can shake a dog's stick at.
And then,
For Buck's sake, leave it alone.
item 18, Matters report. Robin, over to you.
Well,
You've got a damage sign.
gone where it was. Entrance to Buckingham, yeah,
We've got
yeah.
several entrances.
Yeah, I've taken all of them at different times, and I've come to the conclusion on coming back from, it's called Aylesbury, isn't it? The town council sign is
So on the London Road.
on the London Road is a miss. It's missing its
It's now
top set.
welcome to Buckingham.
It's now welcome to Buckingham sign. Have we?
Environment.
Top bit.
Well, they were put there by somebody else.
Environmental signage.
Yeah, but they were put there by events, so.
But it's damaged.
It's damaged. It's missing the top section. Hopefully it hasn't been taken to Italy. And when they went on their rampage across on the plains, I don't think you could get it on the plains, so I'm sure it never went there. But it is missing, and I hope that somebody collected it because they were very, very expensive. And
I'll tell you in the morning.
and if it's gone missing, we'll have to order a new sign.
Thank you. Anyone else got any matters to report? Damage, superfluous, redundant signage, access? No. Chairs announcements, I have none. Just to say thank you very much everyone for attending tonight. Our next meeting is Monday, 24th.
Thank you. Thanks for the.
Thank you everyone.